Welcome back to my channel. You can pause.
It's just gonna.
I'm a new videographer, and she makes me blush sometimes. So, anyway, welcome back to my channel. Today I decided that I was going to show you how to make my go-to granola recipe. And what inspired this recipe making and this idea really was because one day my cereal was finished and I went to Pick n Pay and or Woolworths and or Checkers to look for cereal that I could enjoy, that had no butter, that was also vegan, and that was also healthy and didn't have a lot of sugar, and also most importantly wasn't too expensive, and I couldn't find any. So that brings me to this video, and that is why I decided to make my own granola. This way you're able to control how much oil or sugar or just in general what ingredients you put in your granola, so you know exactly what it is that you're eating, and you're ensuring that whatever it is you're eating is nutritious and delicious and catered to your preferences. So yeah, that's why I'm here today. Anyway, with that being said, I'm going to show you how to make granola. And granola is expensive, it's like 50 Rand plus, and as a student 50 Rand plus for a small bag of granola just doesn't align with my brand and my identity as a student, and I'm sure as with yours. So I decided that I was going to make my own. I got myself some rolled oats, which is a bit tougher and cooks longer than normal oats. And again, as a student, I don't have time to be cooking rolled oats for so long. So I decided, why don't I make some granola instead? So I want to show how to make that, and I hope that you keep on watching so that you can be inspired to make healthy and delicious recipes for yourself at home. And so we're going to begin. First, you need a bowl, obviously, and then you need the contents of your granola. Your fruit and nut mix can be whatever fruits, dried fruits and nuts you prefer, but I'm particularly using some dried cranberries. I'm using some raisins. I know a lot of people don't like raisins, so you don't have to use these. Like I said, it's up to you. You don't have to use fruits at all. Or you could use nuts. I'm particularly using almond nuts because I had almonds on hand that were left over, as well as slivered almonds in here. I also have some peanuts. As you can see, I'm using up a whole bunch of things that were about to finish in any case, and really it doesn't really matter that my peanuts are this little, because when we combine all the other ingredients, they will really help to add to the flavor of my granola, which I am really excited to have in the future. And then a very important ingredient that you have to add to your granola to ensure that you really amp up the flavor, please do not be stingy with this, is salt. And not just any type of salt. Of course, if you have table salt, you know, it's your life. But I suggest that you get pink Himalayan salt, because this will really help to add a dimension of flavor that table salt, metal flavor that table salt comes with, will not be able to provide. And lastly, I'll be adding some spices, and my sugars and spice and everything nice are some brown sugar. I have 2 tablespoons of brown sugar in here, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon because I love cinnamon, and 1 teaspoon of ginger just because, you know, just because. And some molasses. I won't be adding a lot of this. Okay, so there we have our 3 cups of oats. And next I'm going to be putting in my nuts. If you don't like nuts, you can use pepitas, you can use sunflower seeds, you know, the list is endless. So now in there I just added in 2 tablespoons of slivered almonds. So I've got about 2 tablespoons of whole peanuts as well that are also semi-crushed. And then to that we'll also be adding in our sugar and our cinnamon and our ginger. So in here I have my 2 tablespoons of sugar and my 1 teaspoon of ginger and 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. So adding this in here will help to really bring out the flavor of the granola. The sugar will help to add a little bit of sweetness, but I don't add too much because, you know, I'm adding dried fruits, and I also generally like to use sweetened soy milk. So I'm going to be adding in a teaspoon of salt. Okay, that's about a teaspoon of pink salt. And then I'm also going to be adding in some of this. This is not necessarily for sweetness. This black strong molasses is rather for the flavor of the sugar, to bring it up a bit, to knock it up a couple of notches. Because I'm not using any type of sweetener, and had I been using honey, then I'd be able to imbue the flavor of honey but I'm using sugar, so it's kind of bland. And I figured adding this will really help to lighten things up a bit. So I'm going to be adding in a teaspoon of this. Lastly, I'll be adding in some oil. You can use vegetable oil if you want. You can also use butter if you want to also add that buttery flavor if you like it. But I'm using odorless oil because, you know, coconut oil is a good replacement for butter and or oil. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. It won't necessarily impart any flavor, but it will help to crispen the oats and make it nice and delicious and crispy and toasty and yeah. And a little trick that I like to do is, because I have natural peanut butter, the oil tends to separate. I like to take advantage of that and use some of the peanut oil just because I don't know if it actually adds flavor, who knows, but I think it adds nutrition definitely because it has the peanut oil. So I'm going to be adding in some of that in here, which is a tablespoon, and that is why I didn't add as much coconut oil because I knew I was going to add in a tablespoon of peanut oil. And we're just going to add in our almonds. I like to add them in. Actually, this is a lie, I just forgot to add them in. I was going to lie and tell you I like to add them in last, but there's no story there. I'm going to add them in now, and I'm not using all of them. Give that a mix. And then I'll be adding in my coconut oil. It'll smell so fragrant in the kitchen because you have your cinnamon and your nuts toasting and your oats toasting and the salt, and it's going to be divine, trust me. You don't want to add in your fruits now because you don't want them to lose their sugar and to caramelize in the oven, so you will add them in at the end when your tray is still hot. That way the flavor will still be unlocked a little bit, but it won't overcook. Now we're going to take our tray that's already nicely lined with some parchment paper, and then we're going to put in our oats. A trick to try and get your granola nice and clumpy so that you can get those nice little big chunks that we like in granola is to try and layer it on top of each other. So it's not spread out too much, too thin, because then they'll individually crisp and you don't want that. You want them to clump together nicely. So that's what we're trying to aim for here. And halfway through the time, when you're cooking it, we will flip it over to ensure that the other side also gets crisped up nicely. And that's it. Now we're going to put this in the oven to bake for 30 minutes. I took it out halfway to flip it, and then I topped it off with a little bit of some brown sugar just so it can crystallize while it finishes its last 10 minutes in there. And just by the way, it smells divine in here. I just thought to let you know, just in case you were doubting it or wondering. So I'm adding in 1 cup of cornflakes in here, as well as some raisins. I really love raisins. Like I thoroughly love them. I know that they're not popular amongst many people. The raisins and the cranberries together will really help to sweeten up my snack slash dessert slash breakfast meal. Okay, and then we're just gonna give that a mix. Let this cool down for some time before I store it in my glass jar. So I hope that you're inspired by this recipe and that you can make your own cereal and see that it's not actually that hard, and just because factories can make it doesn't mean you can't. And if anything, making it yourself is always the best option. It's cheaper, it's tastier, you have more control over what it is you put inside. I definitely don't like it when they put in dried apples in my cereal. So see, I don't have any dried apples. I have dried cranberries, I have raisins, and I'm happy. So I'm going to wait for this to cool down. I'm going to store it and enjoy.
my best. I'm not. I can see what I'm doing.
No, I know. Hello guys. No, stop it. I'll cut it out.